Part 4 of Creative Mind by Ernest Shurtleff Holmes. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Questions and Answers. What is the truth? The truth is that which is. It is all that is. As there cannot be something and nothing, so the truth, being that which is, must at the same time be all that there is. Where is the truth? If the truth is all, it must be everywhere. Being all, there is no other substance to divide it with. Being undivided, it is everywhere present. All truth, which means all power, must be present at all points, or at any given point at any and all times. Has the truth changed? A substance cannot change unless there is something for it to change into. Since the truth is all, it cannot change, for there is no other thing for it to change into. Whatever is the truth then has never changed. Is the truth, or that which is, one or many? It must be one, since it is all. Is the truth conscious? Yes, man is conscious. He could not be so unless truth or life were conscious. Man's self-consciousness proves the self-consciousness of life or truth or spirit. Like produces like. What comes out of life? Everything that is comes out of life. If life is all, then it follows that all that is some form of life. How does life make things? Being all, it must make things out of itself. It must operate upon itself, through itself, and out of itself must make all that is made. Being conscious, it must know that it is doing this. What would we call this inner movement of life? The inner movement of life or consciousness we would call thought, or the self-knowing of life or spirit. Then the universe and all that is a part of it comes from thought? Yes, everything comes from thought. Do we not see a visible world that seems to change, and if we do, how is it that it could come from something that never changes? Yes, we do see a changing world, but back of it is a changeless substance. The thing that changes is the thought or form. The substance from which this form comes never changes. It is one and undivided, and takes form through thought in all things. We prove this when we resolve all things into one source. All material things, so called, can be reduced into formless substance, the sole activity of which must be thought or the movement of intelligence upon itself. What causes form to change? The intelligence behind it. Is there nothing in the universe then but life, thought, and form? These are all. If this is true, what is physical law? Physical law is simply the result of the inner movement of life. If things and laws are the result of the inner movement of life, then does it not follow that thoughts are things? Yes, all things are simply thought forms. How long does thought last as form? As long as the thought is held in life or mind. Does the thought of life, mind, or good ever change? From all that we can know, the thought of God seems to change. That is, planets change, take form, and again become formless. When we realize that all this can take place without ever changing the substance behind it, we see no reason why God's thought could not change and ever build up a higher form. Indeed, this is one of the teachings of ancient wisdom, that while reality never changes, the form that it takes is ever changing. What is man's place in the creative order? Man is a thinking center in mind, reproducing in a smaller scale all that there is in the universe. Does this not make man's thought creative? In a certain sense it does. What we call creation is not making something out of nothing, but it is thought taking form. And as man thinks, and as thought must take form, then it must follow that man's thought must take form in mind and so become creative. What is man's thought? It is the activity of that something within that can say, I am. What is the difference between God and man? The very fact that man can say, I am, proves that he is. Since he is, he must be made out of life and must be some part of all that there is. This being so, man must be a part of God's consciousness. The difference would be in degree only. He must be as much of life as he recognizes himself to be. Is all of man's thought creative? Yes, all or none. If one thought produces, then all must. If this is true, how is it that man seems to be so limited? because he has thought limitation, and thoughts are things that will always make the thing thought of. In reality, the very fact that man's thought can limit him also proves that it could free him from all limitation by simply changing his thought. But why is man so made that he can think two ways? This is a question that can be answered only in one way. Unless a man can think as he wants to think, he would not be a man at all, but simply a piece of mechanism. Man is an individual, and that means self-choice, backed by a power that will produce the thing chosen. In discovering himself, man chooses many things, uses them and passes to a higher choice, ever ascending in the scale of being. As fast as he chooses, he experiences that thing which he thinks about. What is evil? Evil is the result of a lack of clear seeing, based upon a belief in two powers, and limitation of what we call sin is the result of man's struggle to find himself. If this be true, why could we not at once begin to change our whole life by first changing our thought? We could. We would not be changing real substance, but we would be changing the form that it takes through our thought. All that we can change is the form of thought through which experiences come to us. What is the limit of man's creative use of mind? Man is limited by nothing but his own thinking, by his mental ability to conceive. What is meant by mental conception? All things are produced by thought. The thing produced from mind is first formed in thought. Thought molds mind into form. But do we not have to act? We cannot think without acting. An inactive body is the result of an inactive mind. In using our creative powers, how far do we have to consider the conditions under which we live? We do not have to consider them at all. Conditions are the result, the effect, and not the cause. We create them as fast as we think. How would a person start to change conditions? By first changing thought and realizing that we are not dealing with an illusion, but with the great reality. Then by acting as though we already have what we think. How long would it take to do this? As long as it would take to let go of all negative thought and embody all positive thought. This would depend entirely upon the individual and his mental ability to control thought. What would hinder us the most? Ourselves. No one gives to us but ourselves, and no one takes from us but ourselves. Can no one else help us? Only to a limited degree. While we may be helped by those who understand the law, for a time, yet sooner or later we must ourselves take the creative responsibility of our own lives. Others may think for us for a few moments a day, but we think for ourselves all the time. But does not God help us? Yes, God helps all, but must do it through law. All's love, yet all's law. How should we pray? By giving thanks that we already have that thing that we pray for, by completely believing and never doubting. When ye pray, believe that ye have received, and ye shall receive. We must be sure that in no way shall we think, act, or talk, or read about limitation. We must all be a law unto ourselves. Definitions. God. Infinite Spirit, self-knowing mind, life, truth, intelligence, love, all cause and all effect. That invisible power which makes all things out of itself by an inner action of its own thought upon itself. The visible universe. The ideas of God in expression, the body of God, expression of the divine mind. All visible life is an expression of an inner concept. Law. Mind in action. Law is not cause, it is effect. It is intelligence operating. All law is universal. Vibration. Not intelligence, but the result of intelligence. It follows cause. Thought. The activity of mind. Man. A thinking center in mind. Creation. Thought becoming form. The immaculate conception. Sin. Lack of understanding. Righteousness. Spiritual understanding. Sickness. Image of thought held in mind appearing on the body. Health. The realization of perfect life. Poverty. Limited thought. Riches. The realization of our unity with life, which is limitless. Consciousness. The realization of the fact that we are. Life. Consciousness of power and activity. Truth, that which is. Realization, an inner thought process whereby we become conscious of our unity with life. Absolute, complete self-knowing. Causation, God, Spirit, Life, that which is. Intelligence, that which knows that it is. Unfoldment, the birth of ideas coming forth from mind. Illusion, belief in two powers. Soul, the inner creative life, the feminine, receptive, creative. Sense, not an illusion, but the faculties through which we contact life in its expression. Motion, the inner activity of life-producing manifestation. Effect, the result of inner motion. The Word, the activity of thought. Faith, positive mental activity. Fear, negative mental activity. Attraction, the drawing power of thought. Unity, one mind flowing through all and in all. Objective, life in its outer form. Subjective, life in its inner thought or form. Karma, the law of cause and effect, the result of past thought and action binding the ignorant and freeing the wise. Multiplicity, the bringing forth from the one of an infinite variety of form, color, and motion. Treatment, the mental and spiritual activity of thought for a definite end. Demonstration, the result of correct thinking. Heaven, the atmosphere of correct thought. Hell, the atmosphere of false thinking. Peace, mind resting in the realization that it is all. Poise, an inner calm which never fears. Power, the result of the union of peace and poise. End of Part 4. End of Creative Mind by Ernest Shurtleff Holmes.